My dear friends, when we speak of love, we often dream of fairy tales, yet in reality, the choice of a life partner shapes not just our days, but our very destiny. I have walked a path where the heart was both lifted and tested, and I wish for you to choose with wisdom, not merely with emotion. Allow me to share with you the qualities you must never ignore, for they can quietly erode the beauty of love. When a person disrespects your values and belittles your dreams, they are not simply disagreeing with you or offering another point of view, they are quietly eroding the very foundation of who you are. Values are the compass that guide every decision, every relationship, and every moment of integrity in life. They are shaped by your upbringing, your experiences, your beliefs, and your understanding of what is right and meaningful. When someone mocks or dismisses them, they are not only disregarding an opinion, they are ignoring the very essence of your identity. This is dangerous in a life partnership because marriage or long-term commitment is not just about sharing a home or responsibilities, it is about sharing a vision for life. If that vision is constantly belittled, it creates a subtle but deep fracture in the connection between two people. Dreams, on the other hand, are the fuel that keeps our hearts alive, the aspirations that push us forward, and the source of our personal growth. When a partner makes light of them, treats them as childish, unrealistic, or insignificant, they are in effect telling you that your future is not worth pursuing. Over time, this can lead to a loss of confidence, a feeling of being trapped, and the silent surrender of your own ambitions. The tragedy is that such disrespect does not always come in loud arguments or open criticism. It often comes in small remarks, a raised eyebrow, a dismissive laugh, or an indifferent response when you share something important. These subtle dismissals can be even more destructive because they leave you questioning yourself and doubting whether your goals matter at all. In a healthy partnership, even if two people do not share exactly the same dreams, they still support and uplift each other's journey. They understand that values are the anchor and dreams are the sail, and that both must be respected for the relationship to move forward. But in a toxic dynamic, a partner who disrespects your values will not stand beside you when you need moral courage. They will not defend you when your beliefs are challenged, and they may even pressure you to compromise your principles to suit their own desires. Similarly, a partner who belittles your dreams may sabotage your efforts in subtle ways, such as discouraging you from taking opportunities, questioning your abilities, or prioritizing their own ambitions at the expense of yours. Over the years, this erosion of respect can cause deep emotional scars, leading you to live a life far smaller than the one you were meant to embrace. You might find yourself walking on eggshells, avoiding certain topics, or hiding your true desires just to avoid criticism. This is not love, and it is certainly not partnership. The truth is, someone who loves you should be proud of what you stand for, even when they do not fully agree, and they should celebrate your dreams, even when they do not fully understand them. Without that respect, every accomplishment feels hollow because it is not shared, and every setback feels heavier because it is not shared, and every setback feels heavier because it is faced alone. The silent damage of having your values disrespected and your dreams belittled is that you may begin to doubt whether you are even worthy of the life you once envisioned. You may settle for less, not because you have changed, but because you have been made to feel that what you want is too much to ask. This is why it is so vital to recognize this attribute early before it takes root in your heart and shapes your future. Choosing a partner who cannot honor your values and uplift your dreams, choosing a life of quiet compromises, constant self-questioning, and a slow fading of your own light. When someone shows no empathy towards your struggles or pain, it reveals a deep absence of emotional connection and understanding that is essential for any lasting relationship. Empathy is the ability to truly feel and acknowledge what another person is going through, to step into their shoes and recognize their joy, fear, sorrow, or hardship as if it were their own. In a life partnership, empathy acts as a bridge that connects two souls beyond words, allowing comfort and trust to grow even in the most difficult times. When a partner lacks this quality, you may find yourself sharing your burdens only to be met with cold indifference, impatience, or even irritation. This lack of emotional responsiveness leaves you feeling unseen and unheard, as though your pain is an inconvenience rather than something worthy of care. It can manifest in moments when you need comfort the most, such as when you're grieving a loss, facing disappointment, or struggling with challenges at work or in your personal life. Instead of offering a hand to hold, a listening ear, or words of reassurance, they may respond with dismissive remarks, try to change the subject, or shift the focus back to themselves. Over time, this behavior teaches you that expressing vulnerability is futile, and you may begin to internalize your pain, silently carrying it alone. Without empathy, there is no true partnership, only coexistence. Love without empathy is love without safety, because you cannot feel secure with someone who does not care to understand your heart. This absence is especially damaging during conflict, when disagreements become harder to resolve because one partner cannot or will not acknowledge the other's feelings. Instead of working through issues together, the emotionally disconnected partner may focus only on their own perspective, leaving no room for compromise or healing. It also affects the way they react to your successes, because empathy is not only about sharing pain, it is also about sharing joy. If they cannot celebrate with you sincerely, you are left with achievements that feel strangely empty. In moments of struggle, this lack of empathy can deepen your sense of isolation, making you feel as though you're entirely on your own, even when you are physically together. This disconnect can lead to emotional exhaustion because you spend so much energy trying to be understood yet receive nothing in return. You may begin to downplay your feelings, telling yourself that you are overreacting or that you should be stronger, when in truth the problem lies in the absence of compassion from the one who should be your closest ally. In healthy relationships, empathy creates an environment where both people can be their true selves without fear of judgment or neglect. But when it is missing, every hardship feels heavier and every emotional wound takes longer to heal. This absence can even influence your self-worth as you start to believe that your emotions do not matter or that you are asking too much by wanting understanding and care. Over the years, this can quietly reshape your personality, turning you into someone who hides their true feelings behind a mask, not because you want to, but because you have learned that your partner will not respond with the warmth and connection you need. It is a lonely existence to share your life with someone who remains emotionally distant during your moments of deepest need. And while they may claim to care in words, it is in their actions, or lack of them, that the truth becomes painfully clear. When a person lacks honesty and hides behind constant excuses, the foundation of trust in the relationship slowly begins to crumble, often without you even realizing how deep the damage has gone, until it feels impossible to repair. Honesty is the bedrock of any meaningful connection because it allows both people to feel secure in the knowledge that what is being shared is real, reliable, and free from hidden motives. Without it, you are left to question not only the words being spoken, but also the intentions behind them. And over time, this uncertainty can eat away at your peace of mind. A partner who replaces truth with half-truths, omissions, or outright lies forces you into a constant state of doubt, making you second-guess every story, every promise, and every explanation they give. It is not just about the big betrayals, such as infidelity or deception about significant matters, but also about the smaller lies that may seem harmless at first, yet build a pattern of unreliability. These small lies, when coupled with excuses, create a cycle where nothing is ever their fault. Every shortcoming has an explanation, and every broken promise comes with a reason that supposedly justifies their actions. This repeated behavior leaves you carrying the weight of the relationship alone because you are constantly having to adapt to the unpredictability created by their dishonesty. It also robs you of the ability to address problems constructively because no matter how you approach an issue, they will find a way to deflect, deny, or shift responsibility rather than face the truth. Over time, this avoidance erodes emotional intimacy, since true closeness can only grow in the presence of openness and accountability. A partner who hides behind excuses teaches you, often unconsciously, that your concerns will never be fully acknowledged, that your feelings will always be countered with justifications rather than solutions, and that the truth will always be bent to fit their narrative. This not only leaves you frustrated, but also places you in the exhausting position of trying to uncover what is real and what is fabrication. The danger here is that constant dishonesty conditions you to lower your expectations, making you accept half-truths or evasive answers as the best you can get. And eventually, you might even start questioning your own instincts when they signal that something is wrong. The lack of honesty also affects the way you communicate, as you may become hesitant to express your own truth for fear that it will be met with defensiveness or retaliation. This suppression of open dialogue turns the relationship into a fragile performance where appearances matter more than reality and where genuine understanding becomes impossible. In moments where you need clarity, you are instead met with a wall of rehearsed explanations that leave you feeling more confused than before, and in times when you crave reassurance, you are given carefully crafted words that sound right but feel hollow. Trust, once damaged in this way, is incredibly difficult to rebuild because every future interaction is filtered through the memory of past dishonesty, and every new promise is shadowed by the doubt that it might just be another excuse in disguise. When you are with someone who lives in this pattern, you often find yourself in a relationship where accountability is absent, truth is negotiable, and loyalty exists only when it is convenient for them. This environment prevents you from feeling safe enough to be vulnerable, and without vulnerability, love cannot grow in a healthy way. Over months or years, this constant erosion of trust and clarity can cause you to feel emotionally drained, disconnected, and even resentful, as you realize that you are investing in a bond that is built more on illusions than reality, and that no matter how much you give, the truth you deserve will always be hidden behind another excuse. When a person seeks to control you instead of supporting your freedom, the relationship stops being a partnership and slowly turns into a form of captivity that may be emotional, mental, or even physical. Control often does not appear in its most obvious form at the start. It may come disguised as care, concern, or guidance, making it seem like they only want what is best for you. But over time, you begin to notice that their opinions are not simply suggestions, but expectations, and that their approval becomes something you are conditioned to seek before making decisions. They may try to influence where you go, who you spend time with, what you wear, how you speak, or even what dreams you pursue, creating invisible boundaries that shrink your world little by little. At first, you might rationalize it as them being protective, but as the pattern grows, you realize that they are not protecting you from harm, but from independence. True love encourages individuality and respects personal choice, but control seeks to erase those choices and replace them with the controller's will. In such a dynamic, you may find yourself silencing your own opinions to avoid conflict, agreeing to things you do not truly want, or abandoning parts of yourself that once brought you joy. The danger is that control is often reinforced through subtle tactics like guilt, manipulation, or criticism, making you feel as though you are the one who is unreasonable whenever you resist. They might question your judgment in a way that makes you doubt your ability to make good decisions, or they might express disappointment in a tone that triggers guilt strong enough to make you comply. This ongoing pressure can erode your self-confidence until you start believing that perhaps they do know what is best for you more than you do yourself. Over time, your sense of autonomy weakens, and you might find it easier to simply give in rather than endure the emotional backlash that comes when you assert your independence. Control also creates a power imbalance that is deeply unhealthy, because one person's needs, opinions, and desires always outweigh the others. This imbalance can lead to feelings of suffocation, resentment, and even hopelessness as you realize that no matter how much you adapt, your freedom will never truly be respected. In healthy relationships, support means celebrating each other's individuality and encouraging each other to grow, even if that growth means taking different paths or exploring new opportunities. But when control replaces support, your growth is seen as a threat rather than a shared victory. This stifling environment can also affect your relationships outside of the partnership, as the controlling person may attempt to isolate you from friends and family under the guise of love or concern, ensuring that their influence over you remains unchallenged. They may insist that certain people are a bad influence, that certain activities are not suitable for you, or that time spent away from them is somehow disloyal. Slowly, the world you once moved freely in becomes smaller and more limited, until it revolves almost entirely around them. This isolation further strengthens their control, because without a strong support network, it becomes harder to recognize or resist the manipulation. The emotional cost of being in such a relationship is immense. You may experience anxiety from constantly monitoring your actions to avoid disapproval, frustration from having your voice disregarded, and sadness from losing the freedom to live authentically. Even your identity can feel blurred as you become more of what they want you to be and less of who you truly are. While love is supposed to be a space where both people feel free to be themselves, control turns it into a space where only one person's version of life is allowed to exist and the other is left to quietly conform, even at the cost of their own happiness. When a person avoids responsibility and constantly blames others for everything that goes wrong, the relationship becomes a cycle of frustration and unresolved conflict, because accountability is the backbone of trust and growth between two people. Taking responsibility means owning one's actions, words, and choices, acknowledging when mistakes are made, and making an effort to correct them. In a life partnership, this quality is essential because no relationship is without challenges, and both individuals will inevitably make errors along the way. But when one partner refuses to accept their part in those challenges, they shift the burden entirely onto the other person, leaving them to carry the weight of guilt, problem-solving, and reconciliation alone. This behavior can appear in many forms, from small day-to-day matters to major issues that affect the stability of the relationship. It may be as simple as blaming you for being late when they were the one who took too long to get ready, or as significant as accusing you of causing a financial problem when it was their own spending habits that created the situation. Over time, these constant deflections create an environment where you feel like you're always at fault, even when the facts show otherwise. This constant blame not only damages your confidence but also prevents any real problem solving from taking place because the person responsible refuses to acknowledge their role in the issue. Instead of focusing on finding solutions, energy is wasted on defending yourself against unfair accusations or trying to prove the truth. The refusal to take responsibility also erodes respect because it becomes clear that they care more about protecting their ego than protecting the health of the relationship. It sends a message that your feelings and perspective do not matter as much as their need to appear faultless. This can be especially damaging during conflicts, as they may twist situations to make you feel as though your reaction is the problem rather than the behavior that caused it. Over time, you may begin to second-guess yourself, wondering if you truly are overreacting or if the blame they place on you has some merit, even when deep down you know it does not. This self-doubt is one of the most harmful effects of being with someone who avoids responsibility because it can make you less likely to stand up for yourself in the future. In addition, their inability to own their actions stunts the emotional growth of the relationship because mistakes that are never acknowledged are mistakes that will be repeated. There is no learning, no adjusting, and no true healing when denial is the default response. This pattern can also extend beyond the relationship, as such individuals often blame external factors such as their upbringing, work stress, friends, or even strangers for their behavior, making it nearly impossible to have an honest conversation about change. The result is a partnership that feels one-sided, where you are expected to be understanding and forgiving without ever receiving the same in return. It can leave you emotionally exhausted from constantly trying to maintain peace while absorbing blame that is not yours to bear. In healthy relationships, both people are willing to admit when they are wrong, apologize sincerely, and take steps to improve. But in relationships where one person consistently avoids responsibility, apologies are rare and often insincere, serving only to end the discussion rather than to address the root of the problem. This lack of true accountability slowly weakens the trust between you, because deep down you know that when difficulties arise again, you will be left to face them alone while they distance themselves from any fault. The longer this continues, the more it shapes the dynamic of the relationship, training you to accept blame as a normal part of love, when in reality it is a sign that the other person is unwilling to grow alongside you. When a person fails to communicate with sincerity and patience, the relationship gradually loses its ability to resolve conflicts, nurture emotional intimacy, and sustain mutual understanding, leaving both partners feeling disconnected and unheard. Communication is the lifeline of any lasting bond, and sincerity ensures that what is spoken is genuine, transparent, and free from hidden motives, while patience allows space for listening, understanding, and responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Without these two elements, conversations become shallow exchanges or heated confrontations instead of meaningful opportunities to connect. A partner who lacks sincerity may say what they think you want to hear rather than what they truly feel, creating a false sense of harmony that eventually breaks when reality no longer matches their words. They may also withhold important truths, avoid expressing their real emotions, or offer vague responses that leave you guessing about their intentions. Over time, this lack of openness creates an atmosphere of uncertainty where you are never quite sure where you stand or what they truly think. On the other hand, the absence of patience turns every disagreement into a battle rather than discussion, because the moment you try to express your perspective, they interrupt, dismiss, or become defensive instead of allowing you to fully share your thoughts. This behavior leaves you feeling rushed, invalidated, and as though your emotions are a burden rather than something worthy of their time and attention. In such an environment, important conversations are avoided altogether because you learn that bringing up concerns will not lead to understanding but to frustration. As a result, unresolved issues begin to pile up, creating an undercurrent of tension that seeps into every interaction. The inability to communicate with sincerity and patience also affects the positive moments in a relationship, because genuine connection is built not only in difficult discussions but also in everyday exchanges. Without sincerity, compliments may feel hollow, promises may feel unreliable, and expressions of love may seem more like habit than heartfelt truth. Without patience, joyful moments can be overshadowed by irritability, rushed conversations, or an inability to be present and attentive. In healthy relationships, both sincerity and patience create a safe space where vulnerability is welcomed, misunderstandings can be clarified, and emotional needs can be expressed without fear of judgment or dismissal. But when these qualities are missing, misunderstandings turn into assumptions, assumptions turn into resentment, and resentment turns into emotional distance. The partner who lacks these skills often fails to notice how their behaviour erodes trust, because they may believe that quick answers or superficial reassurances are enough, or they may prioritise ending the conversation over truly understanding the other person's point of view. This dynamic forces you to either suppress your feelings to avoid conflict, or to repeatedly push for conversations that leave you emotionally drained. It also impacts problem solving, as issues that require honest dialogue and mutual effort are left unresolved, resurfacing again and again until they become sources of constant friction. The lack of sincere and patient communication not only affects how problems are addressed, but also how affection is maintained, because intimacy requires a consistent exchange of honest words, attentive listening, and emotional responsiveness. When one partner fails to provide this, the relationship slowly shifts from being a supportive partnership to a silent coexistence where emotional needs are unmet. Over time, the absence of these qualities can make even the simplest interactions feel strained, as though every conversation is either a performance or a negotiation, rather than a genuine meeting of hearts and minds. This emotional gap grows wider with each missed opportunity to connect, leaving you feeling more like strangers who share a life than partners who share a bond.